What we do here is go back.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of the Lost Media podcast. And here it is, a day with Spongebob Squarepants, the movie. Where can you start? It's the most mythical, bizarre, fake piece of lost media that became very widespread in the mid-2010s. This became a huge thing on the internet about 6 or 7 years ago. And everyone wanted to find a day with Spongebob Squarepants, the movie. Where is it? Where is this movie? I want to see it. I want to see clips from it. We're going to talk about everything there is to do with this movie, all the BS to do with this movie today on the Lost Media podcast. I want to discuss it. This is one of those topics that I really wanted to go through. Even though it isn't lost media, even though it isn't partially found lost media, even though it isn't found lost media, it's actually fake lost media, I still wanted to go through it because I figured it was a really interesting piece of lost media on the internet and how a little lie can grow bigger and bigger. It's like the movie Big Fat Liar. It's just a giant scam. That's all there really is to it. The end. Goodbye, guys. No, we'll go through it. The general plot of A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, is a kid named Seth winning a contest to spend a day with SpongeBob. But before that, SpongeBob is really depressed about his life. You know, he hates things. He hates how it's going. He's losing relevance and he wants to boost his relevance again. And so he starts a contest. Win a day with SpongeBob SquarePants. Seth wins the day after several thousands of kids enter the contest. And all sorts of hilarity ensues. And the day doesn't quite go as planned. That's the plot. That's all there is to do with this movie. A script was released towards the very end of the search for A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, towards the time where people realize, oh, this is a giant hoax. And the script added one more detail, and it was, SpongeBob is at SeaWorld enjoying a day with his friend, and then he comes to the realization that his career is over, and then it's just what I just read out, continued all over again, rewritten. It has a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, this whole story of lost media, who want to perpetuate a hoax and want to continue to fool people as much as possible into believing something that is fake is actually real. And that's what I find hilarious about it. That people believed till the end that this was actually a real thing. I think there's a lot of kids who wanted this to be a real movie, who believed it was real. And the disaster just kept on going. It was so freaking stupid how long this search lasted and how much time and effort people put into this. I'm just going to talk about all the events that occurred and how many shady people were kind of discovered during this and were called out for being freaking virtually evil people. Really shady dudes, and that's what I liked about it. So let's just go through it all. I've got it all written in front of me as dot points so that I don't forget anything. I need to make sure I don't forget anything here on the Lost Media podcast because I really want to discuss every single aspect of this. So this DVD was meant to be released as a straight-to-DVD garbage movie made on very minimal budget. In 2011, there was an Amazon listing for it. For November 2011, this movie was going to be released. And November 2011 came. Not that many people were waiting. And it wasn't released. Nothing. So when it became popular on the internet a few years later, and it was starting to gain traction as this, oh, what happened here? What is this? With just one Amazon listing. I don't know how this even happened. It's amazing. Someone reviewed the listing on Amazon and said, oh, this was a great movie. Really enjoyed it. This person's just trolling. This was someone from the very early days of this thing gaining traction. And that's why people looked at this review and thought, oh my God, someone saw it. Wow, this must be real. There was so many this must be real moments from people seeing someone reacting to this movie in a certain way. And it was like, this is bullshit. I did make a video in 2016 on my old YouTube channel, Sam's Movies, where I discussed this, and I said it was fake. I think I fluked it because I didn't actually know that much about A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie. I think I got very lucky in getting it perfectly right the way I described it. I basically straight up said this doesn't exist, it's fake. And that's what it turned out to be, which is, just a stupid part of this podcast where I toot my own horn. That was me when I was like 17 years old. Anyway, some garbage content from back in the day where I tried to act like, oh, I know what's going on with this. Ridiculous. There's just so much crap, like a terrible fake theme song for A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie. Someone uploads this and it's just this really shitty loop playing over and over again for this 3-second loop playing over and over again for about 30 seconds, and then one extra beat is added. Someone commented on Blame It On George's video, this was made in about 5 minutes on GarageBand, definitely, for sure. It wasn't until 4chan got involved and kind of did more research into this, and that front cover, that infamous front cover, they were able to easily figure out that the kid on it is a stock image, just random kid jumping stock image, and Regal Films isn't a real thing. The actual distributor is Regal Films, and we'll learn more about Regal as this podcast goes along. And so God, it's so fucking stupid. They also figured out that the whole thing at the bottom, an unauthorized mockumentary, made 0 sense. And the whole front cover was fake. That's something that is revealed later on in the production, in the search for A Day with SpongeBob. The whole unauthorized documentary is fake aspect to it. But yeah, general gist, the front cover is baloney. There's all sorts of baloney things. The quotes at the top of the DVD cover are also fake. They're not real quotes from anyone or any real organization. Terrible. It's terrible. And Regal Films just comes out of the woodwork as this very bizarre company. They operate out of a back room of a shopping center in a parking lot in the middle of nowhere. That's where their headquarters are listed. What the fuck? And someone from 4chan actually goes to the location that is the associated company with Regal Films, and there's nothing there. It's been cleaned out. It's just this abandoned location. Really creepy, abandoned offices. And so they decide to call this production company. I'm trying to remember what it was called. I have not written it down, what this production company was called, but people who are watching this who know a lot about this, they're able to correct me in the comments, hopefully. Thank you if you can correct me in the comments. It's not really relevant what it was called. It's relevant that it was associated with Regal, which you'll find out later on is a complete scam. They call this company. This woman answers the phone and an answering machine and says, "We've changed our location from this place to this place. If you want to send us something, blah, blah, blah." And then that line goes on after they say you can press 1, 2, or 3 to be directed. That goes to another answering machine of another dude. So they're recording this entire thing and uploading it to YouTube, and this company reacts to this and gets so pissed off and is like, "Oh, you for recording our answering machine. Screw you guys. We're not telling you anything about this movie now. We don't want to tell you anything about A Day with SpongeBob because you did that." Very, very suspicious. In other words, it's a scam company. I'm just going to tell it like it is in this podcast. That's a complete scam company. That's a company designed to just money launder. And then the iceberg deepens. We go and we find an old Kickstarter project for a different business venture that has 20 backers and $10,000 donated. Never seen that before in my life on Kickstarter. And there are 2 people in charge, Lorenzo Holly and Jason Boritz, who are part of A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants. They're linked to Regal and this front cover and this production. And supposedly this Kickstarter campaign that Regal launched. And someone calls Jason Boritz and says, "Hello, are you Jason Boritz? Were you involved with the day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie?" In fact, I don't think they even said that. I think they called him and asked, "Hello, are you this person?" And he reacted, "Oh, you, screw you, don't ever contact me again." This sounds like someone who is paranoid that the IRS is chasing him up for being a complete fraud and running a bunch of scams. Because they're using his real name and not one of his several aliases he's tried to go by. And they figured out his genuine identity, freaked the fuck out. And then someone else manages, after a lengthy process, to get a hold of Lorenzo Holly, someone directly associated with Regal and A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie. They talk to him on the phone, ask him very simple questions, the most simple questions ever. In fact, they're walking him into answers that are so easy. This person on the phone is doing a great job. He can't even answer any question. He's stumbling, he's lying, this guy is full of shit. He's the most shady dude I've ever heard of. Ever. He's in charge of Regal Films. He's in charge of a food company that I don't think is real. I think it's just, these are all companies that are designed to get people to send money to them and send their PayPal or not PayPal because you can get refunds, but send their credit card details through and give them money for something that they're never going to send them, like packaged foods being sent to their house, or DVDs, Regal Films DVDs, or any shit. And this guy supposedly ran a massage parlor that was a sex. It was a brothel. It was a massage parlor that was meant to be meant to give people sexual pleasure. Let's just say that. This guy's so, like, this phone call alone is enough for people to figure out, oh yeah, this guy's he's a complete scam artist. He has no idea how to answer simple questions. He's so suspicious on the phone, and he's a complete liar. So there was that. The final aspect of this is Mr. Orange, the ultimate scam artist. Mr. Orange is called, and he doesn't go by his real name, goes by an alias. Of course he does. And basically tells the story about how he got this front cover to be made and how it was going to be used as a way of getting people to sign on to this production and getting people involved in A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie and the whole production process. And that's the only point of him making this. And he sounds like he's full of shit. He sounds like he is a scammer. I think he was actually associated with this from listening to the phone call, but he sounds like a freaking scammer who's trying to cover his tracks, who doesn't want to be known by his real alias. In fact, there is a chance that this is actually Jason Boritz, and he is using, I fucking hate that last name, by the way, it's impossible to pronounce. He is using Mr. Orange as an alias for his real self because he's under audit and he's in trouble financially if they find out his real name, because he's a massive scam artist. It's a whole money laundering scheme. This is just people in charge of a business where they make listings for DVDs and movies that don't exist, and they try and make as much, or they're real movies that are made with little to no budget, and they try and make a bunch of money off either nothing or just complete garbage that they've produced. So people order. There's like one or two movies that people order that exist, and there's a handful of movies like A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants that they order and they never get what they wanted from it. They never get an order to their house. It's just getting a bunch of money and people never getting what they want. It's a pretty common scam in the internet. I've been scammed with this before, very embarrassing, but it happens. And Mr. Orange, man, on the phone, he sounded like a perennial. The same thing as Lorenzo, just a scammer who's trying to cover his tracks. This isn't confirmed, but this is what I figured out from this phone call. And I think that's what it is. I think he was associated with this, and he's trying to pretend that this was meant to be a legit thing, and it didn't end up being a legit thing. My reasoning behind this is because the production company I talked about earlier, where the people answered the phone and then got really angry that their phone call was being recorded, he listed that as a company that was still going to be involved with A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie when it eventually came out, which was the dead giveaway, the ding 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 ding, for this being a complete scam and him being involved in a bunch of scams. And A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie. It is a movie that doesn't exist, and it is a scam ring. That's all it is. It's not lost media. It's a fugazi. It's a woozy. It's a wazzy. Far out. That's the story of how this thing became such... well, it's not the story of how it became such a big internet thing. I still don't know how it became such a big thing on the internet. That's the thing that confuses me the most. But that's the story of how these people were all uncovered for being massive scam artists, accidentally almost, just because this somehow caught on. And it's kind of cool. But it pisses me off that these people get their 15 minutes of fame when they're just shitty scam artist dudes. One of the most important things about this whole Day with SpongeBob that I'm going to talk about before I finish, that I forgot to talk about, was during this investigation, somebody was contacted who was... I didn't mention this earlier because I A, forgot, but B, just realized that this is just some dude on the internet who's trying to get his 15 minutes, who's called up and said he was involved in Regal Films, distributing DVDs and a little organization run out of his friend's garage, he called it. And he said he watched A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie. It was never made. He didn't freaking watch it. He said it was really bad. And in his post, he's like, do not attempt to look for this. There is no point. You will be disappointed. And it's like, you freaking pain in the ass. When I was researching for this podcast, I was listening to the audio of someone reenacting this guy's post. And it was infuriating me how much airtime this person was getting for being just a serial pest, obviously, and a complete liar and someone who just wanted his 15 minutes. I just spat. And that's how deep this goes. It's just a bunch of people coming out of the woodwork wanting to post on Twitter and say, just watch A Day with SpongeBob, and then people replying and said, really? And they're like, nah, just joking. I just wanted to get attention. That's all this is. It's all related to scams and lies. That's it, guys. Keep watching the Lost Media podcast. I swear they're not getting worse. I swear they're getting better. This, if you didn't notice, was the first ever episode of the Lost Media podcast, and hopefully the only that contains a cut during the podcast. This contains a cut because there was so much of an iceberg for this topic. In fact, it's the biggest iceberg I think I've encountered since Freaky Flickers. Freaky Flickers probably even had more information, and I was able to somehow do that in one go. I still don't know how. This had a lot of confusing information about all the different scams, so I actually made a mistake during this and had to cut out a piece of it. The first ever Lost Media podcast that isn't one continuous go. There you go. You gotta make a mistake somewhere. Please suggest stuff in the comments, guys. It has to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but I would love people to suggest something that's widespread. Lost media, make sure it's lost. And hopefully I'll be able to do a lot of your suggestions. I'm trying to get more topics down pat. Like I said in the previous podcast, if I run out of topics, if I feel as though I've done enough episodes to start this channel off in a really healthy way, because it is only 2 weeks old, I will stop making videos for just a little while, just so I can reevaluate where I'm going with this channel and where I want to take it to. But I'm loving the support, as I said in the previous podcast. It's fantastic. Thank you for watching. A Day with SpongeBob. So awful.